back in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast. I was a American Red Cross disaster relief worker, and I was deployed to Deep East Texas to run one of the shelters, the Red Cross shelters down there. And at the time, there were so many images of animals that had been left behind. So as part of the shelter management I did down there, we had to prepare for Hurricane Rita striking the Gulf Coast as well. And because so many people had been upset about what they'd seen with the animals during Katrina, they brought their animals with them when they came to the shelter in Texas. And we had to figure out what to do. You couldn't separate the animals. We ended up using hotel rooms across the street and making a makeshift shelter for the animals. But that really was the first opportunity I had to see how passionate pet owners other than myself would be about not parting with their animal, even in disaster. So at some point I decided what I wanted to do was find a way to help keep families intact when they were going through some kind of life crisis. I started out doing that sort of as a after-school activity when I wasn't working, and it quickly became a full-time activity. So in 2008 there were a lot of newspaper articles that were starting to talk about the economic crisis that was really affecting the country, and a lot of these articles were talking about the hidden, the silent victim, and that was the pets of the families who were going through foreclosure. What was happening was that people were having to leave their home. They were finding a place for themselves on somebody's couch, but that person couldn't take their pet too. And what you heard over and over again people say is, I just need 3 months, I need 6 months, I'm going to be back on my feet, my kids are losing their home, I don't want them to lose their best friend, their dog, their cat as well. And so it felt like all they needed was some kind of bridge strategy, some place for their animals to stay. And really what I started out to do was volunteer with some place that was doing it. I thought surely somewhere someone is doing this kind of work. And in fact nobody was, and really nobody still is. But at the time I thought, okay, what needs to happen? I've been doing social justice volunteer work for 20 years. I know how to start an organization. What is it going to take? Well, we're going to need the actual physical facility. That's what's going to distinguish us, because we're going to be able to take the animals and hold on to them for families. So I put together a board. We got ourselves registered as a nonprofit with the state and with the IRS, and we found this location, and it was kind of perfect. I was looking for 3 acres or more, something residential where people would feel like they were placing their animals somewhere that felt like home. And the model was that you needed to be willing to work for the next 3 months, 6 months, however long you were placing your animals with us. You were going to work to get to a point you could take your animals back.
Our reunion rate is incredibly high, so it's between 85 to 90% of the animals that come to see our farms actually go back to their families. So we work really hard to make sure that the families who are looking for our services really need our services, so that they want to keep the family, their animals in their lives, and reunite with them. We encourage families to come visit with their animals, walk the dogs, spend time with the cats, to keep that bond alive and make sure that animals go back to their families, and keep the reunion rates high.
The criteria for placing animals with us is that you're going through a life crisis where you need temporary care for your pets.
When a family is desperately trying to keep an animal in their life, but due to a life situation is looking at permanent surrender, what do you do in that situation? And so this organization was there saying, okay, instead of having to surrender your pet to a shelter and likely looking at euthanasia because they're an older pet, they're not the cute cuddly kittens or puppies, instead we can be a safety net for that family.
So we quickly found, as we were starting Steer Farms, that it wasn't just foreclosure, that there were actually several distinct categories of crises that people were experiencing where they actually wanted to retain their animals, that the emotional support they would get from their animals was really compelling and would help them recover. Those areas are foreclosure or economic crisis, a medical crisis. They need to go into the hospital, they need chemo or stem cell treatment, and they can't be around their animal because they're either in the hospital or the animal can't be in their home with them. Domestic violence situations, shelters will take the women, take the kids, they won't take the pets. And so people will stay in very difficult situations because they're afraid to leave their animals where the animals might become the proxy for the violence they're experiencing and trying to flee. The military. There was a whole lot. We're right near a military base here, and you had a lot of soldiers who were being deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, and overseas elsewhere, and they were able to have their animals with them on base. And then when they got deployed, they had nowhere who would take them. They want their 6 months. That's all they need, but they want their animals back when they come back. And then natural disaster.
I lost everything in that. You know, the worst is the sentimental things. Thank God I didn't not take, I would never leave without my animals, and that's why I was going to stay. So I had 8 feet of water. I'm 5'7", so that's, you know, the refrigerator was floating in the bedroom. The windows were all broken. I mean, I have pictures online somewhere. You're walking around like the Walking Dead after that.
When we started, because I came from I understood hurricanes, but it never occurred to me we were going to be serving hurricane victims here in New Jersey when we started. You know, we expected it would be fire, and sure enough, we've had plenty of fire victims who have placed their animals with us. Some flood, we knew that, burst pipes, didn't expect it was going to be hurricane. And then Hurricane Irene hit, and we got a handful. We didn't have that many, but we got a handful. And then Superstorm Sandy hit. So we know that there are always going to be people who need our services. We could have 1, 3, 5, 7 facilities, and every one of them would be full if we had the funds. But what we've done is someone who places their animals with us enters into a contract. That contract says, I expect this is how long it's going to take, up to 6 months. There are exceptions to that, but up to 6 months, I need this amount of time, and I'm going to work toward reuniting with my animal during that period of time. Superstorm Sandy victims or survivors, your bets are off with them. They need so much time because of the situation that they're in. So we have some animals here who have been here since the storm. That's 28 months. And most of those families have been living in temporary shelters themselves for 28 months. So we'll hold the animals for as long as we have to.
I was made about 3 weeks ago to leave again because I applied for the grant, so they're lifting the house now. So what involves, all of a sudden, I needed to be out in 2 days, and they were going to be they were taking the house down next door. I'm living between 2 condemned houses. I still have the external part of my home. And that means Caterpillar trucks, bulldozers, loud noises, all this stuff. And these guys are they trust only me, or did trust only me. And I had nowhere, I looked everywhere. I'd used up all my friends and family for other rescues and during Hurricane Sandy.
For certain circumstances, we work with families. We provide resources. We have lawyers who work with us, social workers who work with us, real estate agents who will work with us, so that you want to help get the family to a point that they can take their animal back. That's the goal. We have an 85% reunion rate. 85% of the animals go back to their families. If for some reason the family can't take them back, and it happens on occasion, then we'll place them out into adoptive homes, or they get to live out their lives with us. But our goal is to put them back with their families.
And then this guy, I was like literally going to social workers, looking for organizations online. No one can take, everybody's too full, everybody's shelter is too full. And I found Laura. I think one of the social workers referred Sear Farms. So I get online and I'm looking at this Sear Farms and I'm thinking, this is too good to be true. This is going to be another dead end. So I guess when you never expect to be homeless when you work so hard, and you're in dire straits because not only was I lost without the home, the contractor was fraudulent, there was no funds, nothing. I had to have volunteers come in to the house, and this place is a lifesaver. I'm not someone who asks for something. I just want to take care on my own. I found Sear Farms. The staff is amazing. They know everyone's names. They know different conditions. Laura, again, the way she responded to me on my email this one night was, they are like, no problem, come in whenever you want to be here. I walk in, everything's cared for. You barely smell kitty smell because they're so kind and conscientious. And they do what's best for each individual cat. They either will keep them, if they're kitties who are insecure, they might be inside. If they're feral, they have these 3 places where the kitties can run in and out. They can be both, and they can be the feral cats that they are.
It is an incredible commitment. I mean, it takes a commitment from the community. You'll see that we have a lot of community members here. You need volunteers.
The volunteers will do the extra stuff that's needed on the property, or give the extra attention that animals need, whether it's dogs or cats. But I, make sure I match up the right dog with the right person, depending on how much experience or what kind of animal they have at home. So I know that who can handle the bigger dogs and who can handle the smaller dogs.
You need staff, and you need sponsors and resources, because in order to be able to provide the service to the client, our client is not just the cat or the dog. Our client is the family unit. So you want to be able to let that family visit with the animal so that they continue to feel connected and want to reunite. They're reminded over and over again how much they love their animal. You want to be able to provide volunteer opportunities so that the cats are getting socialized and they stay really friendly, so that the dogs are getting walked and they're staying used to being handled, so that when they go back to their families, it's as if they were on vacation and they're going back. But that takes a lot of resources.
I really wish there were more organizations like Sear Farms, or I wish Sear Farms had the funding in order to expand, not only within New Jersey, but really into other states. Whether every state has some type of population that has people in need, whether it is from a natural disaster or it's losing a job or losing your home to foreclosure, fire, and a large population of our animals are from domestic violence victims. So there's always a need for an organization like this to care for that pet while the family is going through something, and then they get reunited, and we keep families together, and it's something to be very proud of.
So for anyone interested in doing it, it's totally worth it, but it is a lot of work.
My name is Debbie, and I live in Port Monmouth, New Jersey, and my house was devastated by Hurricane Sandy. There was about 5 foot of water throughout the whole first floor. We received a lot of help from a lot of different places, FEMA money and grants to have our house lifted. But when all that ran out, there's still more house to fix. All the volunteers have been wonderful. They come in 6, 8, 10 at a time. In 2 days, they got the floor down. They come back 2 days later, they put another floor down. They come back a week later and put up walls. They supply the material, the doors, the work, the time. And without them, we wouldn't have come as far as we have. We still got a lot more work to do, and thanks to the volunteers of St. Bernard Group, St. Bernard Program, and anyone out there that's willing to come and help, there's a lot more families like mine that still need your help. Thanks.
It's definitely, given that I think we're 3 years out from the hurricane, it's devastating. The fact that right now we're in a home where the entire ground floor was underwater, is no longer finished, and the family has to live upstairs. I think that really says it all about the devastation.
The only thing I'm noticing is it's very apparent in the neighborhood and just this general area that there's so much work that still needs to be done. The most important thing is just getting people involved and getting people out here.
These people were displaced from the hurricane, and it's very sad. It's been a while since they've been back in their home, and they've put a lot of money and time already into rebuilding their home.
Many houses have been affected. There are flooding, people were displaced. I myself was out of power for a significant period of time, but overall we are making significant effort in recovering, and we are well on our way to recovery.
In light of the fact that there's still some devastation out here as a result of Hurricane Sandy, people like me are just getting involved, donating a few Sundays of our time, looking to just do something to be helpful. I mean, it's a gorgeous day. What else would we be doing on a weekend, you know?
This was a very tragic situation for us, my children and I. Being a single mom and having to deal with their emotional part of it and seeing what's going on and losing so many things in our home. But we stuck it out and we stayed strong. We basically lived a long camping trip. I enjoy camping, but this was not a camping trip that I wish to go on ever again. It was a long, rough trip.
So why I got into it, I love construction, first of all, and then I also love helping people. So it's just, it works together. It's like I'm helping people and doing what I love. So it's not like it's work for me. It's something I can come do every single day and just love it. Getting out of it is just seeing people, you know, after a storm, they just want to be home. You know, that comfort of home. And not being able to fully be home, fully relaxed in your house, being able to see someone once they are able to come in, shut the door to their home, and just feel at rest. Like, that feeling, welcoming someone home, is the best feeling ever.
Hi, my name is Ed Gomez. I work for Credit Suisse. Several times a year, Credit Suisse and Habitat work together to provide volunteers. It's actually a great opportunity for our company to provide awareness of what Habitat does for the community, and for the volunteers from Credit Suisse to give back to the community. It's a great opportunity for everyone.
It's just it's helping your neighbor the same way you would hope that somebody would help you if you were in the same situation.
There's not a whole lot more to say. It is one of those things where you can see the results and the families can see the results, and we're nowhere near finished. So there's so much more to do, and I hope that we'll be able to come back again, and I hope you'll be able to join us.
Even although there is significant effort has been made and there is significant recovery has been done, there's still a lot of work to be done. You need to reach out to your fellow members of your community. It doesn't matter if it's your church, your workplace, your neighbors. Reach out, give some help, give a helping hand. It doesn't matter how small or large or what you can do or you can contribute. Some of us have skills, some of us don't have skills. I myself, I'm just lifting a pickaxe today. I'm not skilled like the other workers, but I'm doing what I can to help the fellow members of my community.
Hi, my name is Mill, here with Barron Builders. I'm so excited that we got to help all these families this weekend. We went to 3 different places. We made a difference. We did siding and we did cleanup and we removed some flooring, and we really helped some families get one step closer to being back into their homes. But we could really use more volunteers out here to help more families and even help with the same families to get them a few steps closer to moving back.
There is still a incredibly large need for more volunteers because there's a huge number of houses that still have damage that need to be repaired and put back into service. So please consider coming out and volunteering. It doesn't matter if you don't think you have any skills. There are unskilled jobs, and it's a great experience.
There's still plenty more families that need help, though, and we would appreciate any other volunteers that would like to come down to the Jersey Shore and help out. So just think of it as a chance to a fun weekend. You meet some cool people, have some good times. It's good work. It's rewarding work, and again, we'd appreciate all the help we can get.
So here I am 2.5 years after the storm, and I'm blessed with having my home redone. And this is supposed to be, they're proposing about a 2-month project. And from there we'll, my children and I will move back in and make it our home again. And a healthy home. And but unlike myself, there are still hundreds of people in this town that still do not have a home or are still in the process of building their home. I can only say that everyone should reach out and give a little. do a little volunteer work. It's a good thing. It's something that is so needed in this town, and I'm going to step forward myself and put my hands in there because I see what wonderful things these people are doing for me. I see what they're doing all around town still to this day, and this is not even close to the end for Union Beach. So we have a couple years, several years to come before our town is really back in business and everybody is comfortable in their home.
With the help of volunteers, it relieves some of that stress and it gets them back into their homes quicker. It's a good way to give back to the community. You know, it's hard to imagine just one day waking up and your house is wiped away from you, and it's just a great way to volunteer, give back. Like I said, I think everyone should do this. Helping other people out is the best joy that you can get and the most fulfilling and long-lasting.
There's an incredible amount of work that still needs to be done. We would love it if more people came down to help, because there's countless people that still need help. It's very rewarding work, and you can learn something. So please come out and help, as we've done. It's been a wonderful experience.
The reality is that disaster recovery is broken in America, and disasters are going to continue to happen in communities all across the country. And I'm so proud to be a part of an organization that is committed to expanding into new communities to meet the needs where they're at, and to be a part of activating passionate people from across the country in getting involved in creating solutions for those homeowners. Our volunteers are integral to allowing us to properly leverage funds to make it possible for as many families to come home as possible. And their energy and positivity is just an inspiration for me as a staff member, as well as for many of the homeowners that we serve, to remind them that the entire country is behind them and they're not forgotten.
We responded to Sandy in a couple of different ways. First was prepping. When we went into Sandy, we were prepping to care for the animals that were in our care if the hurricane was going to strike us here. And that was the consideration that was being made. We have a pump for our well, so if we lose electric, we're going to have a worry about water. If the storm hits and places are closed, we want to make sure we have enough food. So it was all about stockpiling, and it was about making sure that we were going to be able to have the staff. We have quarters where people can stay over. Make sure the animals will be safe if the storm hits, which of course it did. We also because of who we are, we expected that we might get calls from people in advance of the storm wanting to place their animals with us. Based on what happened with Irene, we figured people would probably wait, but we were prepared in case. And in fact, we didn't get pre-Sandy calls. However, immediately after the storm, as people started trying to figure out what was going to happen, they're in shelters and what's going on with their pets, there was increasing hysteria as the barrier islands were inaccessible, and people had left their animals there thinking that they were evacuating simply overnight and they'd be back in the morning. And so what we had to do was be part of the rescue process, where they were sending teams out onto the barrier islands to extract animals that were trapped over there. And one night we got a call. I had one of my board members was on one of the extraction teams. We got a call from her saying they had a semi-truck of 88 animals that was loaded on the barrier islands. It's 5 o'clock at night. At 5 o'clock at night in November, it's November 5th, 5 o'clock at night, it's dark, and we have no electricity. We'd lost it during the storm. So we're in the dark and it's dark. We got a call. 6 o'clock that night, we're full, 88 animals. Can you take them? Can you take us? And I said, how long? And he said, well, we should be about 3 hours. So we had then 3 hours to plan for the arrival of 88 animals. What they told me was they were going to need to swap the animals out of the temporary carriers they were in. So I needed to be prepared not only to accept 88 animals, but to put them in something else, because they couldn't stay in the carriers they were in. So in that time, we got volunteers. We used the RV on the site, prepped it as a triage unit, and we started getting ready. And when they arrived, it was everywhere was black, and you could see them coming because they had a police escort. So you saw the sirens approach. The semi got to the head of the driveway, couldn't make the turn, and so they had to stop there. And then you had police officers carrying animals down 2 by 2 our long driveway, placing them on the ground. They would go in, we would take them in, triage them, get them into one of our carriers, move them out, and the carriers would go back to the truck. In all, by about 1 o'clock in the morning, all of the animals had been taken out of the semi, and then the families started arriving because families had heard that we were going to be a receiving station, and so. For some families, we didn't have their animals, but for some we did. Sadly, for some we had 1, but not 2. That they knew they had left 2 cats and only 1 was found in the home, or circumstances like that. But by the end of the night, we had processed all 88 animals, and we had tucked 50 of them onto the ground so that they could be safely secured. And then for the next many months, most of those animals stayed with us because their owners were in temporary shelters. But gradually over time, and so they sort of converted into our traditional model, and then gradually over time, the animals were reunited with their families.
Join Travel Television for stories of travel for a purpose. Volunteers working behind the scenes to encourage volunteerism around the globe. In each monthly episode, you will travel around the globe and see how you can become a part of those making a difference in areas ravaged by disasters.